Okay, so we've talked about our hands, we talked about our feet. Now we're talking about how we set up our movement to attack and to defend. Make our moves harder to see, make our opponents react to our movements, all of that sort of stuff. The term that I was told to use was called testing. We're going to test the waters as we're attacking and defending by using these feint movements, right? So we can do it, there's innumerable different feints that we can do. There's a really easy way of thinking about this. It's just how are you stepping? What are you doing when you attack? What are you doing when you defend? What does it look like when you do those movements? And then how do you put those beginning steps into your kumite to make your opponent react? That's kind of our whole idea here. So when we're moving, let's say that my major forward movement is with my back foot. Kind of makes sense. I want to bring up that back foot so I've got a nice pressured surface, right? Coiled spring that I can then press off of and attack with. If that's the way that I attack every time, it's important that as I'm moving, I put in that movement into my basic stance. Because now, who knows when I'm going to use this forward step to attack. That's kind of the basic idea. Now, what can we do to create those movements? Well, it's kind of thinking about what are you trying to enable, right? Just like we talked about with our stance. So, if I move my front foot in, what does this enable? Well, my front foot moving closer allows me a very easy counter gyaku. It allows me to bring my back foot through. It allows me to bring my back foot up, right? All of those things are possible. It allows me to pull back. What happens when I step back? Well, that looks like I'm retreating, right? If I look like I'm retreating and can then change direction, I can get my opponent as they move in. Sideways movement, same ideas. If I step to the side, right, and I've been using that sort of step consistently, now, when I do want to go to the side, it's going to be less easy to see than if I wasn't doing that movement at all. It just sort of came out of the blue, all right? We compare these movements with our hands. A very easy drill to start out with. These moves are totally based on your body. And so to say what's going to work for everybody is impossible. Some people you'll see are very pause oriented. So they're moving, and they pause, and they try to get their opponent to attack when they pause. Some people have very big movement. This is like Tom Scott from the United States, who's the best in the United States right now. Olympic hopeful. Big guy to look up. I like to think front foot, back foot, back foot, front foot, back foot, back foot, front foot, front foot. Now, crossing your legs, always a bad idea unless you have a goal. Crossing your legs does enable some movements. For instance, front foot kicks and turning attacks. But you gotta know why you're doing what you're doing. It's kind of my major theme here, is that you're not coming into Kumite just with random drills. I'm coming into it like a science. I look at my opponent. Why is my opponent doing the things that they're doing? How do I get reactions? What happens when I move? That's what I'm trying to watch for in these tests. My favorite movement is that back foot coming up, slight front foot slide. It's almost like I'm coming into a modified back stance. And when I do that, I use my front hand, a little bit of a forward motion with my front hand, and I bring it into the space of their front hand. What does this do? Well, if I train this movement for a long time, whenever their front hand comes to be equal with my front hand, that's my kill range. That's the space that I know I can hit from first. I need to be creating that timing. I need them to not create the timing for me, right? I don't want to mirror them. I want to be creating the movement from the get-go.